Your Weekly, the only entertainment news show that's here to bring you all the info about superheroes that will probably never see the silver screen. I'm Riley Trahan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Deepak Chitness.
There is not a single video game topic today. I am beyond happy.
Fred Naver.
There's not a single video game topic today. I'm happy.
Jackson Trahan.
Hi, hello. It's me. I'm neutral, I guess. I'm just right.
I'm glad that he's not like Thomas the Tank Engine, Jackson Trahan, or something that you always come up with coming from.
I'm kind of sad.
No, we're
no sense of identity.
We're no bits, all news today. I'm just trying to think of what the video game news would be. I guess the Final Fantasy VII remake has been getting some interesting
PS5 Pro
scuttlebutt.
I like this
because Sony stuff.
Riley wants to talk about Final Fantasy VII.
I want to talk about Final Fantasy.
I want to talk about Helldivers and Soup so bad.
Yeah, no, there's not really news. They're just sort of games.
We're just so invested in these games right now that
we don't have a really good excuse to talk about them.
You just want to talk about servers? Anybody servers? Debug, how do you feel about servers?
They should be faster. Well,
I think
actually,
they should be paid more.
The actual video game server news would be that apparently the Star Wars Battlefield relaunch was a bit of a dud.
3 servers,
Star Wars
64 players max.
I know.
Yeah,
Believe it? Yeah. Anyway, let's get to the actual business of the day. We want to thank everybody, by the way, who's a subscriber to the Nerd Out, who is helping us to bring this show to you. We just recorded a great episode about the Nerd Out where Fred talked to us about a classic film, 80 for Brady. It was a lot of fun.
Masterpiece. Snubbed at the Oscars. It is awful.
Yeah. So make sure you sign up for $5 a month. You get 4 extra episodes of the show, and you get golden gems like that. So you don't want to miss out on that. And you also just help us make the stuff we make. So thank you very much. All right. Like I said, no bits. We're getting to the news this week. Let's start off with an exciting set of updates that we got from the set of what we're now calling James Gunn's Superman. It was called Superman Legacy, but Superman is apparently good enough.
It's neater.
Technically no other film called Superman, I guess, because the first one was called Superman the movie.
Yeah, that feels like a stretch, but go on.
Right, much like Star Trek 2009 being a different thing than Star Trek the motion picture, I suppose. But yeah, this one's just called Superman, and we got some other insidery info and stuff like that too, Deepak, though, right? It's not just that it's called Superman.
Right, so we got our first batch of photos from the set. They include, I forget the name of the actress, but she's playing the engineer. So we get the first look at her sort of costume and her getup. James Gunn also said something about on Threads. He posted a video of some kind with the landscape of where they're shooting the film right now up in, I think it's Norway or Finland, some Nordic country where we all presumably think that the Fortress of Solitude will be set. And replying to a comment on Threads, he said that the entire film will be shot in IMAX. The caveat, I think, and this was not clear, but the logical assumption is that he means kind of the digital IMAX, which is the Alexa 65 that they then kind of slap an IMAX sticker on and call it IMAX, the way that like the Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame, were both shot with the same cameras. But these are also the same cameras without the IMAX sticker that shot movies like Parasite, for example, was shot fully on Alexa 65. And then finally, in addition to what Riley said about the name change, another quick curious thing to think about is the fact that we've seen now the entire cast supposedly from the table read where James Gunn posted the selfie. We saw everyone, but we have not had any casting news, nor have we seen any actors that have been cast to play Ma and Pa Kent. So I know this isn't supposed to be an origin story movie, but you would assume you'd see them in flashbacks. At the very least, Ma Kent should be in the movie. So maybe there's a big casting announcement of some huge star coming, and it's probably going to be Nicole Kidman or someone, but we'll see.
Your money's not on. I'm trying to think of who from the early days. Of course, Annette O'Toole already played the mom on Smallville. I'm trying to think of like bygone Superman love interests who could now. What's her name?
Is Kate Bosworth from Superman Returns.
But yeah, there you go.
Amy Adams.
The girl from Smallville is in jail, so we can't do her.
Oh, the cult girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus, yeah. That I always forget that that's a thing, and you're just like, oh.
Nexium. Never forget Nexium.
Nexium is a heartburn medication where I come from, so I'm all pro Nexium.
All right. We're not going to
Great.
get too far away from superhero news just yet because we also got an update that apparently a Teen Titans live action movie is a go at DC Studios.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical of this news, if only because I'm skeptical of any news coming out of the brothers Warner these days. There was a whole Batgirl movie that I was told was made.
Yeah, what's not to love? Warner Brothers making a live action version of a beloved animated property back in the day.
So my main question is, we already know that James Gunn wants to do Batman Brave and the Bold, which has Damian.
Mhm.
So does this Teen Titans include the Damian version of Robin, or is it totally detached with a different Robin?
No, I would think it would still be Dick Grayson.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson, okay.
Riley and I have different opinions on this. I always like the sidekick movies specifically because I feel like you can always get away with doing a little bit more interesting things with those characters than you can with like the big tentpole characters, right? Because like everybody cares very deeply for what Batman is in their head. No one really has that for Robin, I think, and I think you can make Robin do other things that you cannot make Batman do.
I feel like there's been
Certainly fewer
clamoring for
people.
Robin in the Batman movies for a while now.
I love Robin like, specifically, but just I think that you do a little bit more flexibility there.
But what you said is a good point. I think that's why there's a better chance of success with the Marvel characters, because there is not a like when Iron Man and Thor and Captain America came out, there was not a public consciousness around those characters the way there are about like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
Mhm.
And so, you know, not making excuses, we've already done the DC in memoriam, but you know,
And which people can
do
catch on the
have strong
nerd out if they haven't heard that yet. Well, here's my question for you guys, and this is a little bit, I think, the advantage of the sidekick format, Fred. Right, the sidekick format allows you to shorthand who everybody is and what they can do really quickly and easily, right? Because like you've got Nightwing, right? But outside of the Nightwing character, which is grown-up Robin, which is little Batman, right? You have Kid Flash, so little Flash. Aqualad, so little Aquaman. Wonder Girl, so little Wonder Woman. Speedy, little Green Arrow, right? And you can just make those people look like those characters, right? Now we're not talking about Beast Boy or Raven or Cyborg or Starfire in there, which are maybe more likely to be the characters that they actually take to the to this project. But I think a lot of them, it just lets you sort of dress them up like the Thing, right? And you're like, no, it's Superboy, it's little Superman, you get it. And to that end, I'm curious, what characters would you guys want to see in a Teen Titans film? Nightwing off the table, we're assuming.
No strong affinity for those characters. So, well, my other question was going to be, who is the movie going to be targeted towards? Are we making a Teen Titans movie for general audiences, or are we making a live action Teen Titan movies for the PG crowd?
No, I would think it's in the Gunniverse.
I mean,
that's my understanding of how the Gunniverse works.
Yeah, everything's in the Gunniverse now.
Well, because Teen Titans has been
some things that aren't.
Well, it's always been an animated property, which means it's always been geared towards children. So does the live action version go for the same audience?
Excuse me. There was a whole
younger
live action
audiences.
There was a whole live action series on a platform no one subscribed to where Robin said "fuck Batman." So
he did say "fuck Batman." It's true. It happened.
It was on a platform called the DC What was it called? I don't even remember what that app was called.
I don't remember.
But it was the thing I had to subscribe to specifically to watch that show and the show nobody watched, and Harley, and then all that stuff got moved over to HBO eventually. Anyway, point is they said "fuck Batman," so excuse the heck out of me. And that show took an interesting approach because the first season it was like Nightwing, Starfire, Raven,
Beast Boy.
Was it Beast Boy? Yeah,
was on there, but he only turned into a tiger.
Right, like one
Yeah, I
time.
definitely feel like Beast Boy is my number one pick for this to see in
But it was like those 4 for season 1, and then
Mhm.
season 2 it added like Superboy, Wonder Girl, like that whole crew.
Yeah.
And then and Hawk and Dove were on the first season. And
I was
then
gonna say
after that,
all of this makes me feel like my point is sound, which is that they did it in a darker way, and it
Mhm.
probably did not work out, even though there was more than one season.
Absolutely
I
not.
don't think that they're going to. I think they're going to keep it much lighter and probably geared. I mean, it may still be a PG-13, but it'll be like a Force Awakens PG-13.
Mhm.
I'm with you. I would take the Raven, Cyborg, Starfire team, which has been proven really well to be fun and light and silly, to Deepak's point, in the cartoon. And I would splice that into the live action format if you could, right? I think that's what works the best.
Yeah, I mean that is probably what works the best. I'm always really interested to see, like, I don't know, the interactions of the sidekicks outside of like their absolutely perfect like Paragon parents, so to speak. Like, I think that's
Coming
always
into
like,
their own.
yeah, that's always fun for me. I don't. It's the cartoon did stuff that just works so well for a cartoon that I have trouble picturing it in a live action setting.
Mhm. Yeah, man. Hey, talk to Disney about that shit.
Yeah, like Beast Boy's powers just look weird in live action. I think like they're gonna look funky, and
It's gonna look like
gonna be
Animorphs from the '90s.
Yeah, I
Gotta give
don't know how they can make that look good. I'm excited if they can. If they can make it look good, great.
You got to give it a budget. You got to give it a budget.
DC has earned the benefit of the doubt. I think we trust them so implicitly now when they're making these movies. We just have to wait and see what they have to give us.
All right. Next up, according to IndieWire, 2/3 of U.S. adults would rather wait to watch movies on streaming than go to the theater. This was presented to me by Deepak, who
presents everything
in a without comment fashion seems to take it as some sort of a victory.
No, not a victory, just an odd note. I think we've shown time and time again that if it's the right movie or the right confluence of events, people will turn out, whether it's Top Gun or Barbie or Oppenheimer or whatever. But the vast majority of stuff does not need to be seen in a theater, and I think most general audiences understand that, whether it's financial or it's just about the content of the content, so to speak. They just don't think it needs to be seen on a big screen. But that it's not a victory. Obviously, good theaters doing well is good for the industry and good for movies and good for all sorts of stuff getting made. But yeah, I think the pandemic has had permanent and probably irreversible impact on how we consume that content.
Definitely. Yeah. I also thought it was interesting the way that streaming original content plays into that, right? Because there are so much, if not even high quality, just like existing, if there is some movie that came out on a streaming platform this week, right? Even if it's not as good as the thing that's already in theaters exclusively, you've got something you can watch right now, right? Without having to go out.
And the windows are so much shorter now. I mean, Madam Web is already on, as of this recording, is already on PVOD.
Which is
Aquaman
shocking
2 came
because
onto HBO Max within 2.5 months.
Both so shocking. That quality of film being accessible so easily.
Run out to this? But even the good stuff. What's a good movie? I think we all talked about the Mario movie when it came out last year, and I think we were for the most part pretty positive on it. Would have seen it in the theater if I could have, but it was on Peacock. It was on PVOD within like 2 months.
I think one of the issues, the big issue here, is that the streaming has become so competitive that they had to make things that you would want to subscribe to streaming for, right? And so you put things like all the Marvel movies are going to be on Disney Plus.
Peacock is flogging the crap out of Oppenheimer right now.
So but the thing is, like, to make those things more appealing over their competitors, they've also made them more appealing over theaters, right? Like that's a double-edged sword. So yeah, if you're gonna make the streaming services so appealing, obviously you're going to see a dip in theater revenue. That just makes sense.
Yeah, it's become a predictable cycle now. Wonka did well in theaters, but there are probably a bunch of people who wanted to see it, but were willing to wait a couple months to get it on Max. and they're leaving money on the table when they do this, but it's the money on the table for theatrical. Does that equate to the money that they're getting on the table from streaming? Who knows?
And we've talked about this, every angle of this, a zillion times over the years at this point. But the problem, right, is that the networks and the studios are basically the same organizations at this point, right? And so there's no incentive to diversify the catalog offering, right? Like, and companies like Netflix, right, whose business model used to be we aggregate the best stuff, right? Our business is go out and acquire the best stuff from other companies so that you just come here to see the best movies, the best TV shows. And our business is in taking your money and turning it into licensing agreements, right? Now everyone knows that the only money to be made now that everything is in-house is in production, right? And in keeping you plugged into the algorithm, right? Ultimately, and we've talked about this a zillion times, right? Ultimately, Netflix would rather you watch it on Netflix, right? That's why they don't put it in the theater. There is a value to them to even just watching the first 7 minutes of it in Netflix, right? So it's all, I mean, ultimately, this is the thing, right? Is it's all incentivized by these companies. They're pushing people in these directions because when you watch something on Paramount Plus on your Vizio smart TV, it is giving a lot more companies a lot more vital information about how you live that they can then aggregate into data sets that they can use to more efficiently sell you Coors Light. Like that's the punchline of the whole problem. Anyway, now that I'm worked up, perhaps some good news on the dystopian corporate front. It looks as if the era of mega mergers may be quickly moving behind us. We had seen
they all got merged.
Well, there was sort of a
There's nothing left to
decade.
merge. It's all one big thing now.
There was sort of a decade of snatch ups, and now we're sort of on the brink of what is probably, at least according to the Hollywood Reporter, sort of the final edge here. You know, we've been joking a little bit on this show, talking about like, you know, a couple of weeks ago we talked about Paramount lining up for sure, definitely the third Top Gun movie, despite the fact that Cruise is now under exclusive deal to Warner's because everybody just wants to get bought as quickly as possible, right? So like Paramount's in this zone where they're like, we're developing so much stuff. Please buy Paramount Pictures.
This is Hugh Bruno cutting in Dr. Ian Malcolm, just going, sell it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's where we're at, man.
I thought it was the coulda, shoulda Ian Malcolm.
Oh, I mean, about the same scene, right?
So yeah, I mean, there were a lot of these that we've talked about over the years, right? Of course, there was the Fox Disney deal. There was the you know, I think the start of the whole thing was probably when Disney bought ABC and the GE NBC business. But Deepak, what do you make of the future of the streaming wars if we're sort of tightening up the acquisition era, or do you buy the hype?
That's a good question. The second one, do I buy the hype? Yeah, maybe this is much ado about nothing, and the regulator's going to look the other way like they typically have. But say this is real. Say that the consolidation that we thought was coming this year is on. They've decided that they want to enforce anti-security and antitrust sort of measures that are have been in place for over 100 years now. Then I think we're going to see a lot more of what we've been seeing kind of with Netflix and the show Warrior. With the properties that did not find a life on their original streamer will circulate around to a different streamer and find new life, and it'll be this sort of incestual merry-go-round that happens for a while because costs are coming down for production, or costs are going up for production, which means that actual production has been going down. This is not just the pandemic, but this is now after the 2 strikes last year. There's less and less work to be had. So a new way of creating, quote unquote, new content for your streamers to license something from another streamer that your audience has not had exposure to yet. And I think we're going to see a lot of that if they are going to remain as separate as they are now. I still think there are going to be some consolidations. Paramount is part of a larger conglomerate that can divest the studio and or the streamer together separately and still probably be okay. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what shakes out.
Yeah, really astute quote. I just want to call out here from the Hollywood Reporter article by David Wisnia, who's the managing director of consulting firm Alvarez and Marshall, and was a former MGM executive. The quote goes, when Wall Street valued scale at all costs, M&A was much more attractive. Now it's all about profitability, and you have to make sure your dance partner is sustainable one that will show you success. You can't just snatch up any
profitability. This is
what
a crazy concept. Yeah,
we can't just build a house of cards based on debt and expect it to pay out. That's wild.
Yeah, that's it's like The Big Short all over again.
I'm just waiting for Disney to buy Boeing so that I can get speedy access to the parks.
Oh, so they can fix the planes. I thought you were going to say.
Well, no, he wants to get sucked out that door so he gets right down there, baby. Give him a parachute. He's going to land in Epcot.
So you've all heard a rope drop. Just wait.
On the
All
golf
right.
ball.
This is a weird one. We're going to try and tiptoe around this final story with some respect here because I don't necessarily. I don't. It's unclear to me if this guy did anything wrong, but X-Men 97 creator Bo DeMeo was fired the week before X-Men 97 hit Disney Plus. It's a much expected, highly anticipated show. And it's an unusual situation, but I guess given, and this is sort of where all of our radars pinged, was given the recent struggles Disney has maybe had with folks, with news coming out when Disney wouldn't have loved it to. Maybe they were, and it seems like maybe they were a little bit ahead of the 8 ball on some stuff here. Once more, I go to Deepak Chitnis for more.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different rumors and unconfirmed reporting out there about this. It seems that Disney may have had an issue with the gentleman based on some activity he had on OnlyFans, whether it was his own account or accounts that he was patronizing. There are other reports that he was just not very easy to work with. I don't know if that's a rigidity of creative vision issue or a toxic person on set issue.
Or a Disney is trying to find things to associate with him to explain why they fired him issue. I'm just saying, like,
it could
that is
yeah,
a label that
optics,
gets stuck on.
100% could be an optics issue as well. Yeah. He was also apparently fired from The Witcher, the writing room for that show, but allegedly that was more to do with creative differences. He was one of the people that advocated for following closer to the source material, reportedly, and the show famously has not stuck to the source material very well at all. The bottom line is we just don't know what happened. It's a strange situation. Who knows if the show is going to get renewed, although I would like to think it does. It looks good, but I don't know.
He was also named the sexy gay Marvel writer and showrunner to know by Out Magazine in October
that goes on your resume right there.
2022.
Yeah.
Well, that speaks to the OnlyFans of it. Yeah.
Well, so he had a non-explicit OnlyFans account.
Okay.
For a little bit of time.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, like I'm still not entirely sure what's going on. So the creator of this X-Men thing got fired from Disney. That's the takeaway that I've got, and we're trying to figure out what exactly happened.
Why did he get fired? Okay. Yeah, right.
All right, and because it sounds like just someone's throwing like a bit of a smear campaign or attempting to.
I think people are trying to suss out
all his social media. The guy whose name I don't know off the top of my head. And Disney has not made any official announcement beyond, I think, just saying that he's been let go. But no reason was given or anything like that. So I think that's why it's like this the Buckingham Palace Photoshop picture scandal, which is like it's a story that's been created out of what we don't know. Other than
he also has been working with them for a long time, right? He's like one of their stable writers. He worked on Blade. He worked on Moon Knight. All before he was the showrunner on X-Men. X-Men seems to be posed to do pretty well. It seems like it's going to hit with the groups it's supposed to hit with. Everyone seems pretty hyped up about it. So yeah. And then on March 20th, he was dismissed from Marvel.
March 20th. It's not even March 20th yet.
March 12th.
Oh, the show. Sorry. The show's out on March 20th.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is very soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I it's hard to be like, I hope he was fired for like
I hope he was fired
normal
for
reasons. Right. But it does happen. Fingers crossed. It does seem weird and sudden though, so I'm sure we'll learn more over time.
weird and sudden. And if we learn more, we'll do our best to cover it here. All right. When we get back on the other side of the break, we will be talking about the Oscars. All right, great. Now that Fred's out of here, let's talk about the biggest night in Hollywood that took place about a week ago as we're recording this. It was the Oscars, which was full of excitement and surprise for a lot of folks, including Christopher Nolan and the whole cast and crew of Oppenheimer, who were rewarded throughout the night. But I want to start by talking about the biggest surprise of the night that came towards the end of the evening, which was when all-time king Al Pacino came out and just decided to send everyone reeling when he just went, this thing's too long. Let me pop this envelope open and say who wins so we can get out of here. And he did it in a great way where he went, oh, I open up the envelope and what do my little eyes see before me? Oppenheimer. And nobody knew what was happening.
So it's funny, when Amadeus won Best Picture, Laurence Olivier was announcing it, and the tradition we all know is to say, and the nominees are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the Oscar goes to, and he did the same thing where he just came out, opened the envelope, and said, the winner is Amadeus.
Yeah.
Someone from the Academy, people were like, what? And the people from the Academy had to come out and verify because he didn't read the nominees and do all that. I mean, like, Amadeus won 8 or 9 Oscars. It was obviously.
Well, and that's clearly what everybody thought was happening, because there's
Yeah.
like a pause. He like says Oppenheimer and there's a pause as if everyone just thinks he's like reading the nominees in a weird order or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he starts to say like produced by Emma Thomas and Christopher Nolan. And everyone's like,
Well, I think we live in a post La La Land Moonlight world.
Yeah.
Right? So there's always the possibility that something went horribly awry.
Yeah, right. Well, okay, so let's run through, Deepak, I know that mostly the night went according to your expectations. So do you want to just take us through a little bit what you kind of thought it was going to look like going into it and what actually ended up happening?
Yeah, like you said, the predictions ended up, I think I only missed like 3 categories, and one of them was actress, which was probably easier than it should have been. But a big night for Oppenheimer, like you said, 7 Academy Awards: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Leading Actor, Best Supporting Actor for Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr., respectively. It also wins cinematography, it wins score, and it wins editing. It loses sound to The Zone of Interest, and kind of a surprisingly solid win for that category. Not that Oppenheimer would have been bad, but Zone of Interest, I think, does a little more interesting work with the sound. Poor Things had a big night. It swept the production, costume, and makeup categories. And then, of course, Emma Stone won her 2nd Oscar for lead actress. Supporting actress went to Divine Joy Randolph. She won for The Holdovers. So she's the lone Oscar win from that movie. And then other than that, Boy and the Heron wins animated feature over Across the Spider-Verse. Godzilla -1 wins visual effects. So big night for Japanese cinema. International picture, of course, goes to The Zone of Interest, which is a UK production. Those are eligible now because it's not a foreign language film anymore. It's an international film. Wes Anderson won an Academy Award for a short live action feature for The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar. The Benedict Cumberbatch, Dave Patel one that's on Netflix. And what else am I missing? Documentary feature was 20 Years in Mariupol, which is obviously very politically timely. Adapted screenplay is American Fiction, and original screenplay was Anatomy of a Fall. And I think that just...
Yeah, I think that was comprehensive. And like you said, mostly, I think what people expected. There's been a little bit of chatter since the awards that, probably 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed one. The highest grossing movie of the year won Best Song.
That's right. Billie Eilish with her 2nd Academy Award now.
Yes.
So this one seemed much more personal and maybe impactful to her when she accepted. Good speech. Barbie was the picture.
Yes. Not Mario Brothers.
What if that one? Boop, 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 boop. It's a banger.
Oh, it would have been Peaches.
Oh,
yeah, because all of the music, there's like, well, I don't want to get onto a soapbox about the Mario movie again, but like, there's not a lot of Mario music in the Mario movie.
Yeah, they save it for some key sequences, but yeah. Anyway,
I was 5 or 6 years ago now. The Academy started to build out, and I think we were talking a little bit about the idea that they were trying to diversify. We were trying to start to bring new membership into the organization. We were going to start to see younger, more diverse Academy. And one of the things that a lot of the discussion around the Oscars has been about since then is that this new Academy seems less susceptible to like narratives than the older Academy would have been. And I think one of those examples, right, is the Lily Gladstone versus Emma Stone of it all, Deepak, where the Lily Gladstone narrative, I think, would have really been more powerful, but also like an award maybe I would have been more interested in seeing versus Emma Stone winning another Oscar for doing another Yorgos Lanthimos movie, which we have another one coming this year.
Well, she won the first one for not a Yorgos movie.
No, I know. I'm saying she has done another.
Scorsese has now 3 movies, Gangs of New York, Irishman, and Killers of the Flower Moon, that have all been nominated for 10 Academy Awards, including Picture and Director, and have not won. And it's a crazy stat. I was of the opinion that the Gladstone versus Stone of it all would split votes and allow Sandra Hüller to win for Anatomy of a Fall, and that would have been my also pick. Yeah, I agree that they're less susceptible to narratives, and I like that it tends to be not who's due, but who is. It's becoming more of a who is actually the best in this category each year, kind of a Academy. Zone of Interest winning being a huge part of that. Makeup going to Poor Things over something like Maestro, which in normal circumstances you get Bradley Cooper to look like Lenny Bernstein, and all of a sudden that's probably what wins. American Fiction winning adapted screenplay, I think, was also kind of a welcome surprise. Anatomy of a Fall, which is, maybe a third of it is not even in English, winning the screenplay award is also pretty good. Of course, we had Parasite winning original screenplay a few years ago, but that's the direction that we're heading in, right? That it's not just, if we really like Oppenheimer, we're going to give everything to Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer did not win adapted screenplay. Oppenheimer did not win sound. Oppenheimer did not win supporting actress. So, I mean, this is the kind of movie where in the 90s or 80s, when it's a big biopic by a well-regarded director whose time has come to be anointed, you would get like the multi 9-10 Academy Awards all going to the English Patient or whatever.
Right.
And it's not that Academy anymore. You're right.
There's something else about it I wanted to talk through. Came to my mind while you were talking through all that, but I can't think of what it was.
I'll vamp for a bit. I like that they brought back the 5 former winners coming to give the award to a new winner. They've done that in the past, because I remember one of the years Jeremy Renner was nominated for supporting actor for The Town or best actor for Hurt Locker. They had done the same thing, and Colin Farrell had given his intro because they'd worked together on SWAT. So it's not a new thing, but I think in lieu of having the clip show, I do miss the clips, but it's fun. It's kind of nice to see, like,
it's a good photo op.
Who they happen to get, corral into Los Angeles on that specific night. Just be like,
yeah, that's the other thing, is I feel
can
like
we
it's
throw
a
you a couple
logistical
tickets? Yeah.
It felt like a decision that was made for people who enjoy the Oscars, and I feel like more and more the broadcast is not making those decisions. So yeah.
They changed the order up of the awards a little bit, by the way. Best Picture was last, but then they did Best Director in between actress and actor, I believe. There was some
actress was after. Yeah,
that's what it was. I think they wanted it to be. It kind of was a Chadwick Boseman thing again. I wonder if they thought it was going to be Lily Gladstone. Yeah. So maybe just leave the order alone. Maybe learn your lesson now. I don't know. I think they're different producers of these broadcasts. But
I was going to ask if you knew who produced it this year, because it was.
It's the same people who produced it last year, but the Chadwick Boseman year was Soderbergh. Actually, who produced it.
Yeah. Right. Would have been cool if it had worked. Man knows how to stage a moment.
But going back, by the way, to your narratives point, that's probably when we really started to see the first sign of them not following narratives. Because I really do think if you watch those movies, Hopkins was the actual better choice. It's just, do we give it to Hopkins again, or do we give it to the late great Chadwick Boseman? I think either winner would have been worthy, but I think it's just more evidence of they're not going for narratives these days.
Right. And then Hopkins not even being there, and the whole
it did not go well.
Yeah. I thought the highlight of the entire evening was Gosling doing Ken. I thought it played really well. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the whole room was having fun. It was one of those things where it was like, man, this is like what it could be if we got movies in here that people like cared about, right?
They purposely kept that performance to the last of the 5, and it was pretty late, so I think they were just stringing people along to make sure they stuck with the telecast.
Got those rating numbers back up.
And I think for the most part, people seem to have thought it was worth it, because I think that got rave reviews all around.
A lot of reactions online. Yeah, and he had a great
showing
time
up
with it.
was good. Yeah.
And he was, I loved at the end. If you go back and watch it again on YouTube, he has to like correct Slash to like where the camera is. He like pivots him a little bit. So yeah, no, it was fun. I looked like everybody had a blast. And there was a little bit of La La Land love there with Emma Stone.
I saw that
called out, which was
Gosling
fun.
Also has a funny habit of breaking a lot, and you can see him start to laugh and start to smile a little bit too much.
A whole bunch throughout that. He's like not.
It's very funny.
Yeah. All right. When we get back, we're talking about the Nova Corps. And we're back. And guys, we have been, I feel like, discussing the possibility of Nova coming to the MCU since there was an MCU, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems as if there are finally positive signs of Richard Rider arriving in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So rather than talk about those rumors, which I'm sure every time we have said were credible, although these times they seem actually like they're happening, I thought we could talk about who Nova is. Do you guys?
I'm curious to hear how you provide the distinction between what the Nova Corps does and what like Captain Marvel does, or like how the Nova Corps are not essentially Marvel's Green Lanterns.
Well, they are that.
Okay.
That's what they are, for sure. That's exactly what they are.
Next segment.
So there is a Nova Corps that we have met in the MCU before, right? And they are
Guardians
sort of,
1.
Yeah, right. And who was it? John C. Reilly, right?
And Glenn Close.
And Glenn Close was their boss. Yeah. So the Nova Corps in the movies or in the comics is like an intergalactic policing organization, right? And they are super powered as a group of individuals, and they all kind of have they patrol space to sort of keep things safe as the Nova Corps, right? The Nova that we talk about when we talk about Nova is Richard Rider, right? And Richard Rider,
are they all called Nova?
Are they? Yeah, they are. But it's like they have jobs, I think, in the Nova Corps. So I think they have like titles associated with, like Centurion or whatever. Those
I'm glad they have some. I guess Andy keeps his name.
He does keep his name. He is still Richard Rider. Richard Rider.
I was just wondering how hive mind this all is.
No, there are other more hive-mindy intergalactic Marvel pieces.
Fair enough.
So he gets chosen. It's very Hal Jordan, right? He gets chosen by a dying alien. It's
incredibly Hal Jordan.
Centurion of Xandar's Nova Corps, and he inherits the power and succeeds him in the rank of Nova Prime. So he becomes Nova Prime. So the sudden infusion of power overloads his body, and he is hospitalized while he's comatose. He has a telepathic conversation with the alien that gives him a whole rundown on his role, and then he's
like dying. That's cool and helpful.
Yeah, and then he begins his role as Nova Prime. So I wanted to talk to you through a little bit of what our guy can bring to the table here.
And that's his title, like Centurion. He's Prime.
Yeah, he's Nova Prime.
That's cool.
Important. To be clear, official origin of his powers, as listed on the Marvel fandom, a dying member of the Xandar Space Corps directed his energy to Richard Rider to make him a member of the Nova Corps. That's where his powers came from.
That does track.
Energy blast from a dying alien.
Turtles all the way down.
Sounds like a Green Lantern to me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to find a specific list of powers here so that I can hopefully give you a sense of how he's different from.
Can he create things out of light?
No.
Right. Can he create things out of light?
I mean, like he can blast stuff.
No, that's different. Well, I guess the Green Lantern could do that, but that's not the same.
Okay, he can generate energy in a form of extremely powerful concussive blasts that he often uses in combat situations. He can also manipulate the Nova Force to create hyperspace portals.
Oh, he's got his own force. Well, that's huge.
He has the ability to release extremely powerful gravimetric pulses and beams. He has the ability to create powerful shields and force fields using the Nova Force.
That's getting iffy. That's getting very Green Lantern-y.
He has the ability to emit powerful electromagnetic discharges that can nullify gravity.
Wow, he has very intricate powers.
Yeah.
Well, he can also generate. Yeah, so that's energy generation. There's also flight. He has a healing factor. He has superhuman.
When was this guy from?
Hold on, Jack.
76.
I do have to buzz through a couple more things here because there's a big part you are going to want to know. No, I'm trying to get to a question you had. He has superhuman reflexes, agility, durability, accuracy, stamina, and speed and strength.
These are all.
He also has a connection to a thing called the Xandarian world mind.
Oh, well, that seems important.
Yeah. So
what does that let him do?
Aside from housing the Nova Force, Ryder was also the host of a Xandarian world mind. The world mind is a sentient collective created to govern and maintain all forms of Xandarian culture. The world mind contains all knowledge collected by the Xandarian people, including art, science, history, and philosophy. Ryder can access any aspect of this technology by communicating with the world mind verbally or mentally. As a result,
you get this.
This because
sounds like the Captain Marvel thing. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So the last Xandarian was the alien that blasted him with all his energy.
Oh.
So he took on the Xandarian hive mind because that one was the last
guy already just had.
Yeah, because he was the last guy with
like kicking around in the back.
Yeah. The world mind often contacts Ryder unbidden and usually offers advice, instruction, insight, recommendation, and even criticism. Ryder's bond with the world mind is highly useful, however. Also, the fact that the world mind is crucial in helping Ryder maintain self-control when tapping into the full might of the Nova Force.
This is like the opposite of a hive mind. This is like he has a whole civilization living in his head.
Yeah,
not
right.
He is a part of a greater whole.
No, he just has a bunch of people bothering him. But there's some examples of here. I don't want this to just become a podcast about lists, but I do have some examples of when the hive mind has done some stuff. Like, for example, taken over his body while he slept.
Oh, that's not cool. I would have to have a talk with my hive mind.
I'd be a little upset about that.
It can also, but it can auto-translate languages for him.
That's helpful. In human languages? How?
Any kind.
Wow.
Analyze attackers, including detecting adrenaline surges in their bodies, detect approaching superhumans, lets him hack into satellites.
What? With his brain?
Yeah. It protects him from psionic manipulation. Anyway, this has just been a little bit about Richard Ryder, aka Nova Prime, aka Nova, coming to a TV.
Why haven't they made a movie about this guy sooner?
We've been waiting.
Yeah, they've been toying with it for a while.
He sounds incredible.
Presumably too much like Iron Man, and now that they're looking for...
No, I think he's probably too much like Captain Marvel.
Oh, well, same move there. Real brutal just way to end this. I'm looking at his power grid stats, which are a thing that Marvel fandom lets all characters have. The categories are intelligence, strength, speed, durability, energy projection, and fighting skills. Our boy does pretty great across the grid. I just want to call out that his intelligence is 6 when he has
the him or the hive mind.
That's when he 6 out of 7.
Oh,
when he has the world mind. When he doesn't, it's a 2.
Oh,
rip,
dummy.
Well, you know, you got to dump something.
When we get back, we're talking business logistics. All right, and we're back. And this week we got some cool insight. That's me talking about. It's me talking about money numbers.
We got some dope figures, bro.
We got some hella great investment returns to discuss. So yeah, we got some looks into what the Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm investments have reaped, especially the Marvel and Star Wars ones, because this is the first filing really since those massive acquisitions in 2009 and 2012, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to talk through a little bit. There have been a lot of talks about, oh, this year was great for Disney. They had 5 movies that made over $1 billion. And then, oh, this year was terrible for Disney. Nobody cares about Marvel anymore. There's no more Star Wars. Things like Star Wars isn't special anymore, right? We've been all over the map with them the last couple of years. So kind of looking at the bottom line in this presentation they gave this week was interesting. Top line here was a 9.9 per times earning on investment in Frozen, 5.5 times ROI on Toy Story, and a 3.3 multiplier on ROI for Avengers, and then rounding out the top 4, a 2.9 multiplier on return on investment for Star Wars.
That's
so
fucking insane. They made 10 times return on investment on just Frozen?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it wasn't expected to be such a big hit, right? And then it becomes the highest grossing animated movie ever. They make a sequel. There's theme park rides. There's a live show now, right?
But it's also that that's where the money is, right? People are buying stuff for their kids, right? Like the collector's market
the merchandising.
The collector market is highly specific and never as prolific as people think they're going to be, right? This is everybody buying holographic comic book covers all over again, right? Because in the 90s there was this bubble. You're not selling Star Wars action figures as easily as you're selling pillows that look like Elsa, right? Just like at the end of the day, it's a different market, it's a different price point, it's a whole different ball game, but they want to treat it the same, which is why they spent billions of dollars on Lucasfilms. It says this file.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the filing went on to say that Disney, that Marvel and Star Wars generated $13.2 billion and $11.6 billion in value, respectively, since their $4 billion acquisitions in 2009 and 2012. So yeah, I was going to ask Deepak, I mean, what are your big takeaways from this really great article on the Wrap that we're kind of reading from here that went into all of this?
Well, kind of building off of what you were just saying, that Frozen's on top, there's also a matter of, how many options there are for male versus female audiences. And when Frozen is the main thing for little girls, because Star Wars is, as much as there's Rey and as much as there's Black Widow and Marvel, they are still predominantly for guys. So all of that is going to, all that money is going to get consolidated towards the Frozen apparatus. And that's why you're getting such huge returns on that. On top of the fact that it was a relatively low budget in-house kind of thing that just blew up, sort of Lion King-esque more than they thought it would. But the numbers are staggering. You'd almost think that Avengers would be higher. I'm surprised to see Toy Story having a bigger ROI, because I thought with the sequels and with the theme parks and all that, you're putting more and more into it, but I guess they're getting more and more out of it. And Star Wars being top 4 is fine, but lowest of the bunch also sounds about right because of how polarizing and how much of that money has been going towards streaming. The merchandising side of it, I would think, would pick up the slack, but compared to the, I guess, diversity of offerings for Avengers, and then of course your Frozen and your Toy Story are like your blue chip IPs that are going to, Toy Story is something that's going to get current kids. It's going to get people who used to be kids like us who are nostalgic for the old Toy Story. It's kind of generational spanning. So that's where you're getting a lot of that money probably. It's interesting to see the numbers. I don't know how surprising any of it is, but Disney, the investments are panning out, even if they're in a bit of a rough patch right now.
Well, that's the other thing, right? Is when you're talking about the amount of money invested versus the return on investment, right? You're talking about a 2.9 multiplier return on investment on purchasing Lucasfilm, updating Star Tours, doing the original the sequel trilogy,
and
building
all
Galaxy's Edge
games, the spin-offs,
doing Mandalorian, doing Book of Boba Fett, doing Obi-Wan, doing Andor. Like, that's a lot more money invested to then get
multiple seasons of each.
Yeah, to make your 3-time return on, right? And it's probably a much higher bottom dollar figure than a 10-time multiplier on Frozen, which not to sneeze at, it is Frozen, it is Walt Disney World attraction stuff they do. It is live action shows that they do at the parks. It is Frozen Ever After. It's Frozen 2, Once Upon a Snowman, Olaf Presents. And then they have Frozen 3 and 4 in the pipeline.
And live action remake.
Yep. So it's a lot of stuff.
Taylor Swift.
Almost certainly if she wants
from the Chiefs game a few months ago. It was minus or whatever.
Of football fame. Yeah, no, it would be. I don't think that this makes Iger. How do we talk about this? They're in this thing, right, where they're talking about core Disney and like what's the future of the company look like and how do we strip down and how do we reduce. I still think that Disney and Marvel have to be core Disney because I still think that they solve a fundamental problem for Disney, Deepak, that you were just getting at, which is like, what do we do with the boys after they turn 11, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, these 4 brands are your core. There you have your Disney animation, you have your Pixar animation, you have Marvel and Star Wars. That's your core Disney right there.
Right. Then you can license off ESPN into a weird agreement with other sports networks.
Anything that they inherited from Fox is something they're not interested in because we know they got Fox from Marvel and a little bit for Star Wars to own the original movie.
Right.
And
so you can sell Alien
Indiana
and Predator
Jones
if you
is
want.
probably spun off maybe back to Paramount as a bargaining chip for them in their sale. Now we have Indiana Jones back and you can reboot that with Chris Pratt or whatever. There's a lot of interesting. What do you do with Alien, Predator, Die Hard, all sorts of stuff that's under the Fox umbrella that Disney, if they're trying to get lean and mean, they don't need to have.
But it's all the stuff that, it's all the stuff that they've been scared at and they've been hiding on Hulu up until now, right? Because they haven't wanted to associate with the brand anyway. So they're like, oh, if you want to go watch Predator, bop over to Hulu. Yeah. And it's, Simpsons, right? What happens to that stuff?
Yeah.
If they have to get skinny, right, that's going to go somewhere. Because honestly, they already let's really get into the pains of running a company this big and the level you have to be thinking on. It's probably a pain in the ass to negotiate universal rights around the Spider-Man and the X-Men rides already. Just let them have the Simpson ride. Like, just give them the whole rights to that because you don't want it anyway. It's not core Disney. Yeah. If you guys just want to own the Simpsons, there you go.
Well, do you ball it all up into one big package and say you're not going to love everything in here, but there's enough good that if you spend $3 billion on this, you get all of it. It's worth it. Or do you really try to just like parcel it out, and then whatever you're left with there is a big clump of what you haven't been able to sell? You're not going to be able to move that more likely than not. So. It'll be interesting to see what they do. But I agree. I think if you're going to start divesting and focus on what's, your major money makers, it's going to be these 4. Right. Because these are evergreen property. I mean, Frozen, of course, covers more than just Frozen. Toy Story covers the whole Pixar.
Yeah, verse. Right. It is princess movies, Pixar movies, superhero movies, and space movies. Yeah. That's what we're doing at the Disney company. Princesses,
space
Pixar,
/ fantasy,
space, and superheroes. Yeah.
And I don't know if Lucasfilm / Star Wars means they're also keeping like Willow. I don't know how that panned out. I know they tried to bring back Willow, but you probably just get rid of those. And again, it's not Lucasfilm anymore; it's Star Wars.
Right, but it's also there's so much stuff in there that there are Disney things that will not get sold. Right, trash IP. That means nothing, that isn't going anywhere, that isn't going to get developed into, they're not about to bring back That Darn Cat for a 5-season run. Right,
but there's also Disney Plus. I can't imagine there's a market for anyone that's trying to buy that either.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
If no one wants it and we don't want it either, it just stays buried in the vault.
I'm saying, yeah. So I'm saying there is the
Queen of Cotway, they can come and talk to us, but until then, it's just going to languish.
Right, but I'm saying until then, there might be space in the vault for things like Predator or whatever, right? Where they're like, I don't know what we do with this right now, but it's too valuable for us.
They just put a new one into production apparently. So I don't know if again that's something they're trying to do so that they can increase the price or increase the valuation of something they're trying to get rid of.
We cracked it. We figured it out.
There's an Alien movie coming out in like 5 months, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
We'll see. I know because FX is a whole problem for them, right? Like ultimately. If you want to get down
and Hulu, and they're gonna, if they want to, I think like what you were saying, if they want to consolidate everything into one big happy app, you can't have Family Guy exist on the same platform as Mickey Mouse. Like that's not a thing.
Jack,
Hi.
any thoughts?
None more intelligent than your own.
Okay, cool. Well, let's wrap up the show. See you on the other side. This has been Nerded Here Weekly. Thank you so much for listening. Before we take off, we're going to hit you with some pop culture recommendations. These are things we've been watching, reading, eating, playing, or listening to that we've enjoyed recently that we think you'll enjoy too. And even though he's already taken off, we're going to start with Fred Neighbor.
You know, I'm going to drop what might be a bit of a surprise to my co-hosts. I've been watching Grey's Anatomy with my girlfriend. It's been the most entertaining thing I've ever seen in my entire goddamn life. I really wanted to talk about Helldivers. I played a lot of Helldivers. I went next to Helldivers.
Haven't gotten the chance to.
But you know, for those that don't know, I work in a clinic, and the medical stuff is really great. And then all of a sudden they add a little spicy romance drama, and I'm like kind of hooked. And I never thought I would be, but I'm like, I've stayed up way too late watching Grey's Anatomy these past couple nights, and it's been terrific.
I am not surprised because this is the phase of relationship you're in. Is the part where they make you start watching Grey's Anatomy.
It's really it's something.
Thanks, Fred. Deepak.
Mine is To Kill a Tiger. It's a documentary from India. I think it's a co-production by a company in Canada. It's on Netflix. It was nominated for the Best Documentary Oscar and lost to 28 Days of Mariupol. It's an incredible story. It's not an easy watch. It's about the rape of a young girl, gang rape, and her father going to exhausting all legal avenues to get justice for what his daughter went through. So again, a difficult story to hear, but a very essential one, a necessary one. And the quality of it goes beyond just documentaries. I thought it was the best, maybe second only to Past Lives that I saw last year. It was excellent. So that's on Netflix, To Kill a Tiger.
Jackson.
My waking thoughts have all been consumed by a game called Balatro that I'm gonna try to get Riley hooked into because I think he'll be into it. But it's a poker roguelike game, interesting, where you can sort of customize your deck to try to get it to draw good hands more regularly. It's very intriguing. So maybe more on that soon, but don't check it out if you want to do other things with your life.
And I know this is an ongoing trend of recommendations I've had recently, but this week it is Firewalk with Me. I got the Criterion edition here, picked it up. It's got a nice set of special features, including the missing pieces, which is like a whole other movie of just deleted scenes from the film. But also, soon in my area, Miss Cheryl Lee coming to the Alamo for a special screening, hoping she will sign my Blu-ray of the old Twin Peaks film. Because I always tell people I'm into Twin Peaks, but the honest truth is I'm like a fan of Firewalk with Me that discovered there was a whole show that went along with it. So
Casual. You casual.
I know, yeah. Don't let the real ones know that I wasn't there from the beginning. This has been Nerd It Here Weekly. Thank you so much for watching the show or listening. If you're listening to us on the podcast feed. The show is produced by Bruno Meneses and me, Riley Trahan. Our art is by Wiki Rascals, who you can find at Wiki Rascals on Instagram. And our music is by Purple Planet, who you can follow at purpleplanet.com. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at Nerd Here First, or you can subscribe now to the show at NIHF.com. If you like what we do, $5 a month gets you access to the Nerd Out, where we have our deep dive into dorky diatribes. We heard earlier this week, Fred talked through 80 for Brady. We had a great time doing that. And last week, Deepak took us through the DCEU, now that we know that it is over and done with. So if you like what we do, consider it going to NIHF.com, paying $5 a month to get those episodes in your feed as well. And as always, don't forget to tune in next week to hear. All right.